Forces are processes influencing Earth's surface. It can be endogenic and exogenic. Endogenic are related to Earth's interior, and exogenic are the agents of denudation like rivers, winds, glaciers, etc. etc. So these can be of two types: diastrophic or catastrophic. So diastrophic are slow and gradual process, whereas the catastrophic are sudden and violent. Example: earthquake, volcano, and sudden lifting. Whereas the gradual process are like continent building, mountain building, isostasis, thermal upwarping and downwarping, and gradual lifting. So under the extending, the process may be weathering, erosion, transportation, and deposition. Under the exogenic, we can have three aspects of study: how study the landform and describe it, and study the exogenic process that are acting upon the landform, and study the landform and make a model about how they are forming. So what is model? Model is a simplification of reality that will represent how landforms are formed and change, and the related processes that are acting upon it. So there can be three types of landforms: first order, second order, and third order. First order landforms are oceans and continents, and second order landforms are because of the endogenic process. Examples are volcanic mountains, intrusive landforms, more Rift Valley trench, lava plateau. Third order landforms are landforms and first and second order landforms due to exogenic forces. Examples can be delta, sand dunes, sinkholes, and erosion valleys. So what is the advantage of making a model? We can relate diverse aspects of reality. We can visualize what is happening. We can develop predictions how processes are working and how things operate and function, and also we can do comparative analysis between two different landforms. Next, geomorphic models of landform development. Earliest and the oldest models used to be based on the divine intervention in catastrophic sudden sudden formation, like God created the earth in 7 days or something like that. So this is theological thought and school of catastrophism that it is happening suddenly, and with time and with better understanding of processes, we have developed better models, but the focus was still on exogenic processes only. The focus on endogenic processes was developed much later in the later 20th century. In 1890s, the father of systematic and scientific geomorphology studies, W.M. Davis, he gave the first scientific model in geomorphology. Like I said, not until the late 20th century, the focus was on endogenic forces. Therefore, Davis also focused on the exogenic processes, especially river, and ignored the endogenic processes. Now, three concepts that influence Davis's idea. First one is uniformitarianism, which is the present is key to the past. It was actually given by James Hutton in 1780s, and later by his disciples John Playfair and his friend Charles Lyell. So if you know the process in the present, we can interpret what happened in the past, because the process that operate today have also operated earlier and also result in same consequences, but intensity may be different. For example, Wegener interpreted that areas with rich coal fields once had dense forest using this principle only. And uniformitarianism is a basis of the historical studies and interpretations. From we can understand this from here. Therefore, every past has its own past, and every present is a past of some future, and this future will also be past of some another future. So the process that in nature operate as if there is no vestige of beginning, there is no beginning, and no prospects of there is no end. So everything is cyclic and repetitive. Davis used the word cycle in his geomorphic model due to the influence of the Hutton. Next is the Darwin's concept of gradualism and evolution. So Darwin has the concept of how life evolves and gradually changes. So life in nature is not random, rather it is through evolution, which is a continuous, gradual, progressive, and predictive change. Since this is gradual, this challenges the divine and catastrophic origin of Earth and its processes. So gradualism versus catastrophic school. So Davis also applied this principle of gradualism and predictive and continuous progressive changes in how landforms evolved. So his model of landform cycle was influenced by Hutton's repetitive cycle and Darwin's gradualism and continuous progressive changes. So his cycle was both repetitive and also gradual. Also note that Davis used the analogy of life process and life stages in landform study because of the influence of Darwin. The third influence is of base level of Powell. So base level is the lowest level to which a river can reach. So it is generally the sea level. So according to Davis, the rivers are the principal agents of erosion. They create the landform. So also the power of the river is determined by its tendency to flow and reach the base level. So what is its drive, which is the power of the river? It depends upon which stage it is in, birth stage, maturity stage, final stage. In the birth stage, it is generally in the mountains, so the drive will be very high because the difference is very high. In the mature stage, it's much lower, and in the final stage, it's much less. So it is shaped and driven by the river's drive to reach the base level. So These are the three influences. Next, we have the division model of the landform evolution. So the most important statement is landforms are function of structure, process, and stage. So these three are called as the trio of Davis. First one is the structure, which is also called as geomaterial. It refers to all that is internal to the rocks, which can be composition like minerals and elements that make up it, and properties like hardness, porosity, acidity, basicity, etc., and features like fold strips, fall, slope, angle, direction of bedding planes, etc. So, for example, a soft rock can be easily eroded, hard rock can be resistant to erosion, steep angles can be erode faster, salt rocks are soluble. And next we have processes. These are all operations and mechanisms of endogenic and exogenic forces. So as we've seen already, endogenic we have diastrophic, catastrophic. Here we have weathering, erosion, deposition, and transposition by wind, river, glacier, etc. Also, we must note that the influence of structure and process is very comprehensive and relevant, but Davis did not do justice. He just ignored structure and all other processes except river. So his most innovation and powerful concept can be seen in the time, which is the stage. Also, for him, normal conditions are cool and temperate, humid conditions of North America, and river is the only process that he considers. All other considered to be abnormals and climatic accidents. So the stage, the most important is Darwin's influence. So he took the Darwin's concept of evolution of life forms and applied it to the landform evolution as an analogy. So for him, landforms are products of time. So landforms are living things. The features on the landforms are influenced by two things: duration for which they exist, and the time they got influenced by the river action or other in any other denudation. To justify time as the most decisive influence, he gave his theory of cycle of erosion. So for him, landform was a function of structure, process, and times. These two are ignored, and this is given the most important place or the decisive influence. So structure is the rocks, and these are the endogenic, exogenic forces, and this is most important. He gave the cycle of erosion.